You desire answers to questions that I cannot give. I never met our masked savior until the night he freed me. I watched him wield powers beyond science and of the mind. I saw him save the woman I loved, and Nora in turn saw him use his power to cure me of my own condition so we could be together. He acquired the funds for us to buy this house and to live a peaceful life like I once told you about long ago. I would kill for... That is all I know of him, replied Victor, with Batman watching him for any form of deception and finding none. What power did he use to cure you and your wife? Asked Batman, with Victor looking at him now. I do not know, but it is a power not born of science. If this is enough, I must ask you to leave before she comes down, replied Victor, with Batman nodding, and left without a word or sound. Victor, is everything all right? I thought I heard you talking to someone, questioned Nora with a hint of worry. It's all right, Nora. Everything is fine. I was just speaking to myself, said Victor while he smiled at her. You don't have to hide the truth from me, Victor. I know about your past. It was one of the Justice League members, wasn't it? The one from Gotham. The Batman? Asked Nora with a hint of worry and holding Victor while he let out a small chuckle and gave a weak nodding. Yes, it was Batman. I'm sorry, Nora. I didn't want you to worry. He came to see me, no doubt wondering if I am somehow still a threat, or the one who freed us from our prisons was a threat, said Victor, with Nora holding him tightly now. He's not going to take you away? Asked Nora with a hint of worry. No, my love, he will not. I told him all I knew, and in return he would leave us alone, said Victor while Nora still looked concerned. Won't this put the ninja at risk? Asked Nora, since she didn't want Victor to betray the man who helped them so much at this point. No, the ninja expected Batman would one day find us no matter what we did. As far as our benefactor is concerned, Batman will be running around in circles trying to find him, said Victor, with Nora nodding. They could only hope nothing bad was happening to their friend right now. With Naruto at the moment. Very good, Starfire. You are starting to get back your muscle memory on how to fight skilled opponents, commented Naruto while watching her spar with a shadow clone. It had taken some convincing, namely the promise of sex later, to get Starfire to spar with his shadow clone and get her up to fighting form. He feared her time away from training and fighting villains would make the Tamaran woman rusty in the ways of term of combat against a strong opponent. Fortunately, Starfire was able to prove that she could be quite capable of fighting once her own libido was brought under control. The girl had quite the punch when it wasn't enhanced by her star bolts. Not to mention the view of her legs when she kicked was quite sexy from where Naruto was watching the spar. So far everything he planned was running smoothly, but Naruto knew for it to continue running smoothly, everything else around him had to work perfectly with his plans. So far, he had the element of being an unknown phantom in the eyes of his enemies. But that could easily change if he wasn't careful with how he played things out. Stretching out his senses, Naruto focused on Gotham City, with his face forming into a form at the negative emotions overflowing from the place. Even with his intervention at Arkham, the place still felt like Madara had channeled all his hatred, and literally crapped it out onto the city to fester like a plague on the populace. Sure, it was a crude way to describe what Gotham felt like, but no less accurate. Focusing on the various individuals with powers in the city, Naruto easily sensed one Pamela Isley, who was currently hiding in the abandoned Gotham Zoo. One of the few places she could actually hide out until she was ready to lash out at the world for hurting the world's plant life. He had read the extensive file Cadmus had created on the beautiful woman in the hopes that they could somehow duplicate what she had become, or to find a way to influence her to join them in their quest to combat the Justice League. A false promise of land to grow her plants and to help protect nature using the technology gained from winning against the League was something Cadmus thought would help in sweetening the deal. Naruto felt she was getting a bum rap by both Cadmus and Batman in terms of dealing with her ways of doing things. Yes, it was true that nature was in fact suffering, but the way Pamela went about it was all wrong. She attacked the problem in a way that made her out to be the bad supervillain the papers and media outlets portrayed the sexy temptress. They called her crazy, a monster. They said she was nuts in wanting to save nature and plants from being wiped out. Naruto felt she wasn't wrong, but just went about solving the problem itself the wrong way. The media put her in a bad light, doing what she did up until now. That's a given in terms of how people perceive things. Yet Naruto felt she should try to turn the light from bad to good. Show the world just how toxic the area around them truly was, and show humanity the fruits of their labors in polluting the planet. Make the current generation stinking up the place, think about the next generation's future, and to make the next generation want to get up off its ass to do something about it, so the planet isn't such a crap hole when they are old enough to run things. He would no doubt have to make contact with her soon, even more so due to the very emotionally distressed woman living with her in said hideout right now. A ringing of his cell phone got his attention. Seeing it was the only person who had his number, he put it to his ear. "We have a problem," said Tala with Naruto frowning. "I'm listening," said Naruto while focusing on the conversation with Tala overseeing Starfire Train with the Shadow Clone. "Cadmus is onto me. One of their agents was in my room. Unauthorized. He was sent to snoop around and look for incriminating evidence of me being the traitor," said Tala from her location outside of the Cadmus base, with the burnable cell phone he had given her. "And they know or suspect you are a traitor, how exactly?" questioned Naruto, since he knew they didn't leave a trace of his presence in the main spell room. "He was in the bedroom scanning for something with some kind of device I have never seen before. I got worried. I knocked him out and destroyed the device. When he wakes up, the incident will be reported to the others," exclaimed Tala worriedly. "Yeah, that does prove to be a problem. Even if you could justify beating the crap out of the infiltrator over him sneaking around, it doesn't explain why you suddenly destroyed his technological toy given to him by the others. Especially since we don't know what said toy does in the first place." "Definitely a problem," commented Naruto with a grimace. "How do we handle this?" "Isn't it too soon to make a move to leave Cadmus?" asked Tala while worried they might tip their hand too soon. "Not necessarily. I have a lot of cash now thanks to my trip to Vegas. I already set up a nice little penthouse for home where we can to live in," said Naruto while knowing Tala would be worried and amused by his choice of residence. "Where?" asked Tala while sensing she wasn't going to like it. "Metropolis," answered Naruto. "What? Metropolis? Are you insane? Lex Luthor resides in Metropolis. He has eyes and ears everywhere in the city, technological or otherwise. He built over half of the city with just his money and his genius," exclaimed Tala into the phone. "You overestimate the man's actual brilliance, Tala. Besides, if he were truly brilliant, Lex would have learned Superman's identity years ago. He would have killed Superman years ago. Not to mention Lex wouldn't have gotten cancer from the radiation produced from the shard of kryptonite he would always carried around. Seriously, you would think the man would have put it in a lead container. If it hurts Superman, who is impervious to almost everything, imagine what it does to normal human beings. The man is an idiot who is slightly smarter than most and has an ego that is also bigger than most," replied Naruto with Tala growling into the phone. "This isn't funny, Naruto. You are playing a dangerous game and clearly find it funny like some sick joke." "Well, I don't find it funny. I will not be put in harm's way just for your own amusement," exclaimed Tala while Naruto frowned. "First, I don't think of this as some sick joke, Tala. Second, I won't put you in harm's way should things go bad. I have never put you in harm's way up until now, and I won't allow it to happen either. So calm down. As for Lex, you leave him to me when the time comes, and trust me when I say I can fix this issue in my own way," replied Naruto with Tala on the end calming down. "All right, but hurry. I don't know when the Cadmus agent was supposed to report in, and the moment he doesn't, I will be hunted down for questioning," said Tala, knowing she was as good as marked down as a traitor by Cadmus when their suspicion of her grew. "Okay, don't worry. I'm going to finish up my spar with Starfire and head back to pick you up. My plans for Cadmus are going to be altered a bit, but it will get them off your back in terms of what to classify you as in the future," replied Naruto while he began to grin evilly, even if Tala couldn't see it. But she could sense it. "And what are you planning to do exactly?" asked Tala while dreading the answer to the question. "They are looking for a deadly killer and ninja assassin, right? One they wish to kill or to recruit into their ranks. I'll simply make a grand appearance and shake things up for them in a way they will never recover. Also, don't worry about Galatea, I'll be picking her up when I get you too," explained Naruto calmly. "Are you sure? Galatea is very strong and has combat training. Unlike Supergirl, She knows how to hurt people when fighting, and enjoys it from what I have heard, warned Tala with Naruto smirking on his end. True, but compared to me, Galatea is a novice. In any case, I know of a place where I can keep her contained long enough to convince her to side with me. You just get all the things you want from your room and be ready to leave within the hour. I'll take care of the rest, replied Naruto, knowing he would have to get Tala out of there in a hurry, and wanted her packed before he arrived. Okay, I'll be ready. Just hurry, whispered Tala, knowing she could defend herself against some of the troops Cadmus had on hand. But some of the others in the lower sections of the base, not a chance. I will now move that incredibly hot ass, and I'll be there right away. See you soon, said Naruto before he ended the call. Who was that lover Naruto? Asked Starfire, since her sparring partner had dispelled earlier and saw him talking to someone on his cell phone. That was Tala. She ran into some trouble with Cadmus. I need to get you back to our penthouse home before I go pick her up. I need to divert and misdirect Cadmus away from suspecting her of betraying them, so no one knows of her actual involvement in my actions, said Naruto with Starfire nodding. I see. I hope shared lover Tala does not mind my presence in our new home. I do not wish there be the friction that comes from being around another female who is sexually interested in the same male as myself, said Starfire with Naruto grinned. Just be respectful of her space, and when she wants such moments with me, Starfire, and you won't cause said friction. Now let's get to our home, said Naruto before he grabbed her by the waist, held her close, and used Kamui to head to their intended destination. It was time to shake up Cadmus and see what dirty secrets fall out for all to see, and the Justice League to clean up. Chapter 5. Impact. Tala had to admit, if only to herself, the entire penthouse Naruto had purchased was very impressive. It was large, very large. There was plenty of room to do just about anything from lounging around to working on her own work in the magical arts. She actually had an entire room, a very large room, specifically customized just for her talents in all things deemed mystical. Her lover had apparently spared no financial expense in order to claim the largest and clearly most expensive penthouse available in Metropolis. Hello, fellow lover of Naruto. I am Starfire, greeted the Tamaran woman, who gave Tala a surprisingly gentle hug without the creaking of bones from the receiver of said hug by the Tamaran woman, since Naruto had told her in advance such hugs could really hurt if she didn't restrict her strength further. Yes, I know. His description of you was quite accurate. Including the hugging, replied Tala, while she accepted the hug from the alien woman despite her not really being what most would call a hugging person. They were sharing the same godly deity after all. I was hoping we could spend some time together. Lover Naruto feels the best way for us to not cause problems is if we have the girl bonding moments to further our friendship, said Starfire, with Tala thinking it over in her head for a second before nodding. Might as well, said Tala, knowing there was nothing else she could do right now until Naruto got back from dealing with her former employers. Cadmus at the moment. Given how all of us but Tala are here once again, means we now know who sold us out to that ninja assassin, remarked Lex Luthor calmly, while General Lane and Amanda Waller were not amused. Probably because they didn't suspect Tala in the slightest when considering the potential list of traitors within their organization. It gets worse, I'm afraid. We just got word a few hours ago that Galatea is also missing too. Her handler and several other agents meant to observe her are all dead too, said Dr. Hamilton while looking over the report. So we have a traitor, and one of our weapons is on the loose. Did you activate the hidden tracking implant we made sure was surgically implanted in her neck? Asked Amanda to Dr. Hamilton, who was nodding. We did, but there was no signal when activated. Some kind of interference we have yet to solve on our end. It's almost as if she is not on the planet, but no one who knows about her has the means to do such a thing, answered Dr. Hamilton, while Amanda scowled and General Sam Lane looked serious. I told you we should have kept a tighter leash on the alien clone. We only had enough of the original DNA to make one copy of Supergirl. Now it will be extremely difficult to try getting more of it, remarked General Lane at Amanda Waller, while the woman glared at him. There are always ways to get more alien DNA from our target, General. It will just take time to plan and orchestrate the means to do it, said Amanda while General Lane was not convinced. We should have captured Supergirl early on and bled her body dry so we could make more like Galatea when we had the chance instead of just playing nice with the Justice League, said General Lane coldly. And risk Superman and the Justice League tearing the world apart to find her when that happens. Discovering just how deep the rabbit hole is regarding Cadmus and its secrets. You think only of the reward and none of the risk resulting from your actions, General. And at this stage of the game, it is the last thing we need right now, said Amanda while General Lane just scoffed at her. And you are too set in your ways of being covert, Waller. You are acting like we should be walking on eggshells when we should be crushing our enemies without fear of the so-called consequences, countered General Lane while clearly itching to take the fight to the Justice League, rather than being stealthy like they were now. Stealth is necessary in this stage of the game, General. Besides, it won't be long before Galatea resurfaces. When she does, her tracking chip will relay a signal to us, and we can send a team to capture her before she is properly retooled, so this won't happen again, said Luthor with General Lane nodding. And if she can't be retooled as you said, asked General Lane while glancing from Lex to Amanda. Simple. We liquidate her. Literally. We take the genetic material we still have from her body and start all over again. A new clone and new means of containment. Of controlling her. She is a weapon after all. It would not be beneficial for Cadmus to let such a weapon we own go around without some kind of collar and leash designed to make it heal, said Amanda, since she believed in total control and submission of things under her command, no matter the individual. The only reason Galatea had any leeway here was to see if they could have her being a field test of being their sleeper cell assassin when called upon to serve while blending in with the public. And this is why assholes like you shouldn't be given any kind of power, said a figure above them. What the hell? Questioned General Lane when he looked up and saw a masked figure hanging upside down with his feet on the ceiling while looking down at them. I mean, do you even hear yourselves when you talk? Or do you just ignore it for the sake of hearing someone else talking about the same crazy shit you are all planning? How far have you shoved your heads up, you ass, to the point where you have become nose blind to all the shit that's in there? Questioned the masked figure before he fell down toward the round table and landed on it dramatically right in front of the High Council committee members. How did you get in here? Demanded Amanda Waller with a scowl on her face. I would think the answer to that question is quite obvious considering you're down 2 members with one being dead. And the other is Mia, replied the masked figure with Amanda and General Lane scowling further. Tala, so the sorceress sold us out, said General Lane while the figure laughed at him. You make it sound like she did it by choice, remarked the figure now standing up fully with his arms crossed in front of him. Are you saying she didn't betray us? Asked Dr. Hamilton curiously. Well, not at first. Of course, considering how I gave her the option of telling me about you guys or removing a limb or two. I think you can all imagine what she chose to do, said the figure before he flipped backward and landed in the empty seat once belonging to Tala. So you tortured her for information, surmised Amanda with the figure nodding. You sound almost appalled by the idea of me doing that, commented the figure with Amanda narrowing her eyes at him. Considering she was a member of Cadmus, yes, I am appalled, answered Amanda while the figure scoffed at her. Hypocrite. You say you're appalled by my actions, but if it was someone who is part of the Justice League I did it to, or if I was part of Cadmus, you wouldn't give 2 shits if I tortured someone for information. Hell, you would ask me to continue my work so long as Cadmus prospered from it. So don't act like you are on some moral high ground with me, you stuck-up arrogant bitch, said the figure coldly at Amanda, who didn't take kindly to his choice of words. Speaking of working for Cadmus, how would you like a job under our employ, mister? Asked Luthor to the shock of the others. Call me Jubai. And no, it's not my real name, said Juby with a knowing smirk hidden behind his kitsune mask-wearing face. Luthor, are you mad? This ninja set us back several years for what he did in Arkham, and killing Dr. Hugo Strange. Not to mention kidnapping Tala and possibly the main reason Galatea is no longer under our control, exclaimed General Lane, while Amanda seemed to be considering the idea. All the more reason to employ him, General. This masked individual could do wonders for Cadmus just as much as he has hurt us, countered Luther while glancing at masked ninja before them. He's not wrong. A person of your skills could give us an edge against the Justice League and turning things in our favor, added Amanda with the masked ninja tilting his head at her. True. This place does seem to have some interesting toys on hand, none of which are legal in any sense of the word, nor meant to be known to general public given the moral ramifications if known. I suppose I could consider myself a part of your group and get in on the ground floor of this place. For a price, of course, said Juby with a smirk that was behind his mask. He knew they could sense was there. A price? You expect us to pay you? Demanded General Lane angrily, since he despised mercenaries with a passion, and this ninja was just like them. Nothing in this world is for free, General. You know that. I don't believe in your cause to fight against the Justice League. I don't like any of you, to be honest. I look at everyone here and in my eyes I see the antithesis of the Justice League, said Juby, and it made the 4 members of Cadmus scowl. Says the cruel sadistic murderer in the room, said Dr. Hamilton with the masked ninja laughing at him. Yes, I am cruel sadistic murderer. You got me there, Dr. Hamilton. But what about the rest of you? Do not talk to me like your own conscience and soul are clean here. None of you here walked into this room and out of it clean. Every single one of you is just as dirty as me, if not dirtier, countered Juby in a cold and fierce tone. And how do you come to that conclusion? Asked Amanda while hearing him chuckle again for a brief second. It's quite simple. Everyone in this room is either a betrayer, a murderer, or has ordered the death of someone they deem to be a threat to their plans in the past. So do not think for one moment that I am the only real villain in here. I can lay all the sins each of you has committed at your feet. Amanda Waller here has been in charge of several Black Ops programs, the questionable Suicide Squad program included, and thrown away loyal soldiers once they were no longer useful to her. General Lane, you have tried to petition to the President of the United States on multiple occasions the creation of a meta-human military drafting program. A program designed to get meta-humans drafted right into the military to be turned into weapons with you as the military officer they ultimately answer to in the end. You plan to one day use such meta-humans to do secret, unauthorized, and unsanctioned military operations, even manipulating some of these meta-humans into starting a war, and where you could use them to their fullest potential to end it. You would order them to infiltrate other war-torn countries to further stir up so much trouble that the United States would have to get involved in order to secretly acquire the rights to the resources of those various regions within the ruined nation in exchange for such aid, said Jubai, while both individuals mentioned frowned at having their own dirty military history and laundry aired out in front of them. Not that they cared if it was, since they didn't regret their plans or desires for the future. It was just they didn't like someone judging them for their actions. Meta-humans are dangerous. Even you can see that, protested Dr. Hamilton with the masked ninja focusing on him now. Don't get me started on you, Dr. Hamilton. You betrayed Superman after the incident where Darkseid had successfully brainwashed him into being an invader of the planet, and he had asked you for help, said Juby, while Dr. Hamilton looked like someone had slapped him in the face. He held me by my lab coat and lifted me off the ground. The man looked like he wanted to kill me, exclaimed Dr. Hamilton with a hint of anger in his voice. And you are surprised he did that. You refused to treat his severely injured cousin of her wounds, and refused to help him when asked politely. You knew he was telling the truth about being brainwashed by Darkseid. You knew he wasn't the villain everyone had made him out to be from the event. Yet, you said no to him. After everything he had done for the planet and sharing Kryptonian technology with you personally, the ever-intelligent Dr. Hamilton showed his true colors, and said no when a friend was in need of help. Not for himself, but that of his cousin, his only remaining family left in the galaxy at large by blood, and you wouldn't even lift a finger. All to save your own pathetic skin from the fear of being persecuted for it, said Juby, while Dr. Hamilton looked away since it was true. I did what I thought was right, whispered Dr. Hamilton with the ninja scoffing. You did what you did to save your own ass. Nothing more. And now look at you. You side with Superman's enemies. You betrayed his trust by making a more lethal version of Supergirl to be used against the Justice League. I would think a man of your intelligence would have realized siding with everyone here in this room was quite possibly one of the most stupidest things you could have done. Especially when one of the people in this very room is Lex Luthor himself, exclaimed Juby, while pointing a finger at Luthor. From the tone of your voice, I take it you have something against me, asked Luthor while noticing General Lane was discreetly reaching for his sidearm underneath the table. I do actually. I find your presence to be the second most revolting one here, surpassed only by Dr. Hamilton, who I consider to be lower than trash for his betrayal to Superman, and Supergirl for joining Cadmus. You, I can understand joining. You have wanted to kill Superman for years. The Justice League, which Superman helped create with the other founding members, falling into a ruined form of nothingness is just icing on the cake. I know everything there is to know about you, Luthor. I know every single crime you have committed. I know who you bribed in the courts and other key places to stay out of jail when the time came for a trial. I know who you hired in terms of contract killers to take out key witnesses to any potential trial when bribery failed. I know of your fear of death, and you can't bear the thought of someone like Superman, who is essentially a living god made flesh from another world, another civilization once far more advanced than yours, outliving you on your own planet, replied Jubai with Luthor, now scowling and showing some serious anger on his face. That alien has no business being on Earth, much less alive for the things he's done, said Luthor with the masked ninja laughing at him. All Superman has ever done, the incident with Darkseid not counting, was helping other people in this world with little to nothing, and foiling your every attempt at committing a high-level crimes. The selling of advanced weapons to a third-world dictator currently on the U.S. Do not trade list being one of them. What about trying to sell deadly biological weaponry on the black market, knowing when unleashed will kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of innocent lives once exposed? And for what? Also, you can make several $100 million in profit under the table, and the prospect of doing future business with these animals seeking to butcher more people, for whatever their stupid reason is in life. How many lives were ruined due to your business deals, Luthor? How many people died so your company could make a shitload of money, which you pump back into your R weapons program designed to kill more people? Superman included, questioned Juby, while Luthor felt his hands become fists and feeling anger seeping into his mind at being judged by someone else. You like to throw around a lot of dirty laundry at us, and what we plan to do if given the chance to do it. But what about you, masked ninja? What makes you so righteous and so high and mighty? Especially since you kill people for money. You killed people not that long ago in Arkham. You have no right to judge us when you are just as guilty for ending other people's lives, said Luthor, while the masked ninja tilted his head at him for a brief second, as if thinking about the bald man's words over in his head. Yeah, I killed people recently at Arkham. I admit it. But don't talk to me like they don't deserve to die. You look at each file on each and every inmate and prisoner I killed. How many did they kill after escaping Arkham? How many suffered because people like you wanted to keep them around to manipulate, control, and one day unleash on the Justice League? How many innocent lives are all of you here willing to sacrifice, just to win against an organization designed to protect innocent lives from such people? Challenged Juby while staring at all of them with narrowed eyes behind his mask. As many as it takes until Cadmus wins. Innocent lives are always killed in wars, and as far as I am concerned, we are at war with the Justice League. I will wipe out an entire city if it means we win, said General Lane while Amanda nodded in full agreement. And for that reason I will not join you, said Juby with his tone indicating his choice on the matter was final. And seconds later, following the masked ninja's words, General Lane quickly drew his sidearm from its holster. The man had an angry look on his face that told everyone here in the room that he didn't like people disrespecting him, what he did it, or how he did it. Bang! 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 3 shots aimed perfectly at the masked ninja dead on with pinpoint accuracy of 2 in the chest and 1 in the head. Only a handful of people could have dodged those bullets. One being the Flash, Superman, if he wasn't invulnerable to ordinary bullets, Wonder Woman, and possibly Batman, if he had anticipated the attack before it happened, given his own reflexes. But the masked ninja didn't dodge the bullets like one would expect him to do. Instead, he let them hit, or rather, the masked ninja let everyone think he was shot. Damn freak of nature, probably a meta-human. We should dissect him right away and see if we can't duplicate whatever powers he possesses into some loyal soldiers, said General Lane confidently, but was shocked like the others to find the ninja turn his head at him and seem to be completely unharmed. "Are you done?" asked Juby, to the shock of everyone, since they were sure one of the bullets was a headshot. "How are you alive?" "I shot you in the head," exclaimed General Lane while aiming his gun again at the ninja's head, and got a kunai thrown into the gun's barrel to jam it. Another kunai was thrown and hit the general's wrist holding said gun when the man brought the gun away from aiming it at the ninja. Crying out in pain, General Sam Lane managed to drop his gun on the table without it going off, and preventing the risk of a ricochet from the result hitting him in the process. "As you can see, I'm more than just a handsome masked face," said Juby with a chuckle to match his kitsune mask he wore. His power allowed him to warp the area around him, like the Martian. Could he be one of them? Or does he human, but have the ability? Could it be duplicated? Thought Lex, while believing with such an ability mastered under his command, he could actually kill Superman and the other members of the Justice League. "Now, the reason why I came here, aside from kicking dirt on your shoes and airing your dirty laundry at the feet of your soulless bodies, is to put you all on notice," added Juby, while the 4 Cadmus members in the room disliked being talked to like that. "On notice? That sounds like a threat to me," countered Amanda while she hit the alarm underneath her table and waiting for the armed men to come into the room to detain this man for further questioning and further experimentation and possibly manipulating him to the point of obeying her, if possible. "Threat? No, it's no threat. I'm being civil with words being spoken and informing you of certain things. If I had wanted to threaten any of you, I would get out of this chair, walk behind your own, grabbed you by your hair or skin in Luther's case, pulled your head violently back, and put my sword to your throat to the point where I draw a trickle of blood to get the point across. That, Amanda Waller, is a threat. Oh, and in case you are wondering why no one is coming in here to save you from me, possibly killing you, the alarms are temporarily disabled, and the men outside of this room you would try to call upon for aid are all dead," replied the Jubai, while the idiot people around him finally understood who they were dealing with. This was someone who took his profession of not only killing people, but being in control of other people surrounding him very seriously. He didn't let others with their supposedly superior strong minds, bodies, or anything else in terms of power intimidate him. This masked man in front of them made sure that when the time came to show his own hand to others at the card game, he always had the winning hand, like he did now. Aside from General Lane, no one had been armed at this meeting. No one was expected to be armed except the general, since he was a military officer. And even now, the man was trying to keep himself from bleeding to death from his injury, with his gun having become completely useless to anyone thinking of using it against the ninja. "What do you want from us?" asked Amanda, knowing this man held all the cards, had all the power, and had all of them at his mercy. "Nothing much. I want you to back off in hunting me. Don't bother looking for either Tala or Galatea after this. I killed them both. And yes, I do have the power to kill Galatea. It is actually not that hard if you know what to look for in terms of a weakness, and bring about a means to make it lethal. One was a loose end, and the other, well, I felt it was the right thing to do. Don't like it? Tough shit. Next, no more cloning or experimenting with alien DNA for your own sick devices. I took care of your little experiment several levels down with the big, mean, and spiky monster you made down there, along with all the data research material along with it," said Juby, with Dr. Hamilton going pale in the face, since Project Doomsday was in its infancy and meant to one day combat Superman in an all-out fight. The ultimate deterrent against the Man of Steel was now lost. "Fine. Should barrel." "What else?" asked Waller, while seeing General Lane looking at her in horror over the fact she was giving in to him. "Second, you leave the Justice League alone. No hiring criminals, mercenaries, assassins, psychopaths, metahumans, and certainly none of your suicide squads either. As far as I am concerned, Cadmus is on life support, and I can pull the plug on you anytime I see fit," said Juby, with Amanda frowning, and part of her wanted to protest like the others wanted to right now, only to be silenced before they could even speak when the ninja pulled out his sword from behind his back and let the sound of it being unsheathed echo throughout the room. The move was sending a message to these people loud and clear about what the alternative was if they said no to any of his terms.
And the third condition? There is always a third condition, questioned Luther while the masked ninja let the chuckle he let out this time become darker.
My third condition. Oh, that's an easy one. I want the life of one member here among Cadmus's High Council committee members in this room, answered Juby with all of them going tense. You can't be serious, protested Dr. Hamilton, while Amanda frowned, General Lane grit his teeth, and Luther looked at him with calculating eyes that glanced at the exit from time to time. Deadly serious. Don't like it. Tough shit. But, to show I am not entirely without mercy or generosity, I will let you all choose who among this group of ambitious morons gets to die for the whole collective. Who here is willing to prove their patriotic worth and give their life so the others may live to see the next sunrise? Which three here are willing to sell out the fourth person in their group? They all believe is expendable above all others, questioned Juby, while he looked at each member of Cadmus here and waited for three of them to sell out member number 4. Amanda Waller was gritting her teeth hard. So hard, she was sure the majority of them were going to crack under the pressure and need to see her dentist soon after today. While the other members of Cadmus in this room looked at each other, she didn't. Amanda was by far the sharpest mind of all the members of Cadmus's High Council Committee. She had made it her business to be smarter than everyone around here and everywhere else. All in the off chance those who worked with or under her here at Cadmus plotted some kind of coup against the woman for the seat of power she possessed. Already she knew her position was secure. She knew too much, seen too much, and was a woman with considerable influence in various branches of the United States government. Both. The real ones few knew about, and the ones off the books where even fewer people knew even remotely existed. General Lane was not expendable. Though Amanda would be lying if she said it wasn't a distinct possibility, given his temper and injured state making him at least be considered and sacrifice, if no one else here was considered lower on the hierarchy totem pole. The man was a 4-star general and had many military contacts within the government like herself. But his desire to start a war with the Justice League early caused friction to arise between them at times. He believed military muscle and recruiting or forcing anyone with powers to his side was the way to win. Next, she glanced at Lex Luthor with narrowed eyes. She would be lying to herself and saying the bald businessman and mad genius of sorts didn't deserve to die. The man always had an agenda when it came to Cadmus. Beyond the killing of Superman and the destruction of the Justice League, she never could find out what it was since Luthor kept such secret plans close to the chest that few, if anyone around him did know about them, knew his true objective in providing the main funding for Cadmus. But if Luthor died, Cadmus would be crippled further from their main source of income being cut off with their other private backers, which Luthor got involved, would abandon them after they declared Cadmus as a lost cause. And finally, Dr. Hamilton himself, former friend and ally of Superman. He was also the key scientist and geneticist for Cadmus, who made Galatea, and was working on the top-secret military weapon codenamed Project Doomsday. Unfortunately, if what the ninja told them was true, Galatea was lost somewhere, and Doomsday was destroyed along with the means to make another one of him. Amanda got the distinct impression that if Dr. Hamilton were to try in making another Galatea or Doomsday, their masked ninja assassin would kill them all. And the masked ninja made it clear he disliked, or rather hated, Dr. Hamilton the most out of all of them here. Dr. Hamilton, said Amanda Waller coldly out of the blue while seeing everyone look at her. What? Why me? Questioned Dr. Hamilton while he gawked at the woman who so callously spoke his name and essentially offered up his life over the others. Because you are expendable. While a great scientist, you are not the only brilliant one in the world today. Cadmus can replace you, said Amanda heartlessly, while the other two in the room glanced at her before looking at Dr. Hamilton and nodded that they agreed with the decision too. Your talents can be replaced, Dr. Hamilton. As such, you are the most expendable, said General Lane with some effort to block out the pain. I agree. I know half a dozen scientists in my company alone who could replace you. We only chose to let you join because of your past connection with Superman and the data provided about the alien. But that currency has long since been spent in turns you're being valuable to us, added Luthor while Dr. Hamilton started to sweat. And no, wait, please. You can't be serious. Please pleaded Dr. Hamilton while getting up from his chair, and saw each member of Cadmus in this room looking at him with firm eyes. They chose him to die. They chose him to be sacrificed for their own survival. Well, you know what they say, majority rules. Goodbye, Dr. Hamilton, remarked Juby before he threw a kunai at the man's head and watched it pierce his skull. Satisfied? Asked Amanda while the ninja looked at the now dead man before his gaze turned to look at her. For now. But you would do well to keep this organization on a tight leash and not doing anything to provoke the Justice League. If anyone here does, regardless if it is done in the name of Cadmus or your own personal ambition, you're next. Oh, and to prove I'm not bluffing in the slightest, replied Juby before he was gone in a flash, and the sounds of explosions on different levels of the base could be heard, followed by the many different alarms going off. Damn him. We need to get this proverbial sword to our throat removed and bring Cadmus back from this situation. But how? Thought Amanda while seeing soldiers finally enter the room and several medics managed to treat General Lane's hand. Luther, in the meantime, was frowning at what he had just seen from this assassin, and was already scheming to find a way to make that power his own. Metropolis moments later. Naruto appeared via Kamui and threw off his masked ninja attire in its entirety. In fact, the Nidame Juby was now literally naked at this point and didn't give a crap. He had just spent a good chunk of his time hearing those idiots go on and on about how they had to plan on taking down the Justice League. Then Naruto hears them talking about finding out who he is behind the kitsune mask and ninja gear, all so they can use him, plus all his powers, to crush their enemies. Only to kill one of them after putting his big-ass booted foot to their throats and made them choose which one among them got his throat crushed. Now he was feeling bloodthirsty and overall very horny. He needed to get laid. Now. Hence why he quickly entered the living room to see Tala and Starfire during their girl bonding moment, with one looking completely shocked by his sudden naked arrival into the room, while the other was also shocked, yet highly aroused upon seeing him naked. Naruto, what are you doing back? And why are you suddenly naked? Exclaimed Tala, who had her questioning of him being in the penthouse, and being suddenly naked was interrupted by Naruto kissing her passionately. She didn't even let out a muffled complaint when he ripped her dress clean off moments before he thrust his cock into her pussy. All Tala could do was moan, and then cry out his name, while Naruto thrust into her repeatedly, while standing there in place. His hand was firmly on her butt, another was on her breast, and he was currently leaving a mean hickey on her neck. To the side, Starfire was finding herself burning with desire at seeing Naruto claim Tala in such a dominant manner. It made the sexual attraction she constantly felt toward him grow considerably, and Starfire wanted her lover to do the same thing as he was doing to Tala, to her own body. Even now, what little clothing she had on had been removed from her orange skin on instinct, and was floating nearby with desire burning in those green eyes to join at the right moment. As if sensing her sexual desire in plight, Naruto focused on making a strong shadow clone for Starfire, and unleashed it on the happy Tamarin woman while he returned his attention back to Tala. Now the sound of moaning, grunts and cries of passion echoed throughout the room twice, if not 3 times as loudly. The 2 women in his, and the clone's, arms were holding on for dear life as he thrust into them, enjoying the sexual act clearly done on an impulse of sorts, or possibly biologically driven based on what they knew of Naruto's plans for the day prior to now. They didn't know, but honestly they did not care why Naruto was having sex with them. They were just glad he was having sex with them. Naruto came hard in both women while said women did the same and trying to milk him for all he was worth. When the feeling of the orgasm died down, Naruto, plus his shadow clone, grinned at the 2 women panting heavily and gave them another thrust to show he, plus his shadow clone, was still hard. Before Starfire or Tala could say anything in protest, not that they wanted to say anything in protest, Naruto, plus shadow clone, were at it again, and soon made their way over to the soon-to-be-replaced cow. Starfire cried out again while riding him as Naruto's mouth made it to her breasts, and she found his sharp pointy teeth on her tipple. The Tamarin woman loved how Naruto was so controlling of her. The sex slave training the Gordanians put her through was now in full gear. Even now, the mental commands imprinted in her mind long ago through the painful mental programming was currently telling Starfire to do everything in her power to pleasure this man before her. That he was her master. He was the boss. He was her owner. She was his slave. She was his personal property. She was to obey every single one of his commands he gave her. She was his bitch meant to be mounted whenever he desired sexual pleasure from her body. As for Tala, she was currently in reverse cowgirl position. Naruto had her head leaning back and was kissing her while his hands were on her breasts, massaging, pinching, and pulling those luscious globes while his cock thrust into her hard and fast without showing signs of slowing down. Tala was moaning and screaming pleasurable noises into his mouth, while her body had surrendered to his dominating touch. When their next big orgasm hit, both women were sweating and panting heavily, while the shadow clone of Naruto moved the Tamaran woman off of him. Despite her weak protest, it had to be done, and the shadow clone dispelled after giving her a kiss on the forehead. Seeking his warmth from the sexual afterglow, Starfire found herself leaning against the original, and she moaned when one of his hands reached around to grope one of her breasts. "By the gods, that was wonderful," gasped Tala while she leaned back against Naruto's sweaty, muscled chest and sighed at the feeling of his hand on her breast was still giving her stimulation. "Oh, we are not done yet, my dear Tala." "Starfire, get your head between our legs," ordered Naruto, with Starfire obeying within seconds, moving over both their legs and clearly had an idea of what he wanted her to do when down there. "What? Wait! I'm not into other women!" exclaimed Tala and gasped in shock when she felt the Tamaran woman's mouth on her clit and hands on Naruto's balls. "Yeah, well, I am. And judging from the way Starfire knows how to work you over, she clearly does too," said Naruto, grinning at hearing Tala gasping, moaning, and even a few choice words about how good Starfire's mouth was down below. "Yes. I was well trained in pleasuring both male and female sexual areas in the event my master was in fact a mistress," added Starfire, while she alternated between Tala's clit, Naruto's cock, and his balls with cum leaking down onto them. All the while, Naruto himself had his free hand fingering her pussy and playing it like a master musician with his nerve-stimulating chakra hitting all the right notes. "Which means we will be doing this a lot more after today," said Naruto, with his grin increasing and enjoying Starfire's assault on his and Tala privates while he was getting the orange-skinned alien woman closer to coming with his fingers. Oh, I shouldn't. This is, by the gods," exclaimed Tala as she came hard when Starfire attacked her clit again, and sudden sucked on it. Hard! The internal muscles of Tala's womanhood clamped around Naruto's cock and made the man unleash his load deep into Tala, thanks to Starfire adding her own actions, adding the necessary stimulation. Starfire herself screamed into Tala's clit when she came hard from Naruto's fingers hit her own with incredibly potent chakra. "Still think we shouldn't do this anymore?" asked Naruto after a moment before seeing Tala's one hand on Starfire's luscious red hair and petting it lovingly. I think we should explore our various options when it comes to sexual pleasure," said Tala while moaning at the feeling between her legs. "I thought you might see things differently now," replied Naruto, with his grinning, having heard this from her, and knew this would be happening many times in the future. Today alone, Naruto destroyed parts of Cadmus, crippled the organization, killed one of their top members, and put the others on notice. Not to mention he destroyed their future monster of a deterrent weapon against Superman and had the sexy clone of Supergirl in the Kamui dimension to deal with later on once she calmed down. All before he had sex with these two super hot women in their shared penthouse home. Oh yeah, he was a total badass and was just getting started. Kamui dimension 2 days later. Galatea glared at the man in front of her. She was on the ground, exhausted from flying around, searching for a way out of this strange place. At first, she thought this was the infamous Phantom Zone she was told about by Dr. Hamilton. But given the description of the Phantom Zone compared to this place, made her think otherwise. So Galatea decided to fly around the area, trying to figure out where she was and how to get out of here. Only to find out that due to there being no yellow sun, or any sun for that matter, Galatea could not maintain her ability to fly. She eventually crashed into the ground by the end of the day, and finding her powers were getting weaker with each use. Gritting her teeth in anger, the woman screamed in rage and hitting the sandy ground beneath her, wasting even more energy in the process, and getting weaker too with each angry punch. Finally, when he suddenly came here, the very person responsible for bringing her here in the first place, Galatea tried to blast him with her heat vision, only to find out that her ability to use it was non-existent due to having spent all of her energy earlier, without any of it left to attack. Something she found out when trying to charge him and found herself unable to move beyond normal human speed. Not to mention her punches were just as normal as the next person, and no amount of martial arts skills she possessed from the time training, under Cadmus's watchful eye, didn't help either. This person, whoever he was, batted her fists away, blocked her kicks with ease, and knocked her back 10 feet with the tip of his right index finger on her forehead. "Are you done?" asked Naruto casually while seeing Galatea growl at him. "I will be once I kill you," remarked Galatea, with her glare being the only weapon she possessed at this point. "Yes, because you are so good at killing people when required. Amanda Waller and the rest of Cadmus would be so proud of you if they thought of you outside of being their loyal pet and weapon," said Naruto, with Galatea's glare increasing. "Shut up! They can't control me," countered Galatea while Naruto scoffed. "Really? So you are completely fine with that little tracking chip they put in your neck? The one with the ability to lock onto your location within seconds, and has a shocking mechanism in it to knock you out by targeting the nervous system. To monitor where you go, who you meet, who you sleep with?" questioned Naruto, with Galatea looking shocked by this news. "What? You lie!" Galatea shot back. "Your Cadmus handler lacked a spine when I questioned him on the issue. I have no doubt he would have bragged to me about being the first to get between your legs if it wasn't for the fact I had him tied to a chair with multiple sharp pointy objects stabbing him in his legs. Though he did comment about you being a dumb blonde whore for a clone of the said blonde alien woman. You were made from given the fact he knew you slept with that TV reporter named Lasser from Eagle Network. If it makes you feel any better, I made sure his death was quite unpleasant," said Naruto, with Galatea narrowing her eyes at him, since she had slept with her Cadmus handler knowing it was a means to have more leverage in being able to go to certain places she normally couldn't, or rather wouldn't be allowed to go on the organization's strict orders. Lasser was just a means to an end to draw out Supergirl in the near future for a fight to decide which one of them would live on this planet. Actually, it does make me feel better. My dumbass handler wasn't even that good in bed anyway. His dick was too damn small in my opinion. Same with Lasser. They were both all talk. No skill. I may not know much about my alien ancestry due to being a clone, but what I was able to gather based on what Dr. Hamilton could conclude from his own tests on me. Our standards for sexual intimacy are high, just like our own endowments. I only slept with them because I was bored and was curious about what it felt like. I had to finish myself off when neither one was around. I couldn't have their weak human egos break and risk him reporting to Cadmus. You have no idea just how irritating that was when the need to scratch the itch had to be done by my own hands, and I couldn't do it until I was alone," said Galatea, with Naruto smirking at her. "Yeah, I figured as much. I take it you heard the rumors of Superman leaving the planet for another one? Taking Wonder Woman and Big Barda with him?" asked Naruto, with Galatea nodding before her eyes widened in shock. "You orchestrated that?" questioned Galatea, with Naruto nodding. "Yep. Hey. My plan is to have Superman retire from the superhero business by redirecting his goal in life to bringing back some measure of the Kryptonian race. Of course, I knew the best way to do it is on a planet where he is not a target of various power-hungry people in various governments or organizations. We both know they would use his said progeny against him if the child was ever kidnapped. So I felt the man, for his years of ever-loyal service to the world, deserved a nice retirement package," replied Naruto, with Galatea already deducing where he manipulated the Man of Steel into going. "I have heard rumors of Superman's past from some of the members of Cadmus regarding some alien warrior woman queen named Maxima. That's it, isn't it? You sent him to her with Wonder Woman and Big Barda to plant his seed there?" questioned Cadmus, with Naruto grinning further. "You catch on," quickly, Galatea. "Do you have a problem with my actions given your high standards? You might be a hot Kryptonian woman yourself, but clone of Supergirl or not, he is still your cousin. I do not think your race practices the likes of incest," said Naruto, with Galatea smirked further at him in a more seductive way. "Nor do I wish to bed him. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure my cousin has everything in all the right places where it counts, and being the right size too for woman he wants to sleep with. But I draw the line in terms of allowing the family pen to dip itself back into the gene pool ink. Double dipping like that is such a turn off to me, said Galatea while she started to eye Naruto's shirtless body, and not so subtly licked her lips. I can imagine, said Naruto while he saw the look she was giving him, even if was one meant to let his guard down and do what she wanted in getting her out of here. You know, I have to admit my anger aside for you ambushing me earlier and sending me to his place. You aren't half bad looking, said Galatea while letting her eyes go to his crotch and felt a certain desire rising within her. I am sorry about that. I only brought you here for your protection and until you calmed down. As I said, Cadmus has a tracker in your neck to monitor you at all times. Not to mention I have read several reports on you written by your handler, and got the words out of his own mouth before I ended him. He said you have quite the temper when provoked into an attack, whether it's verbally or physically, said Naruto while Galatea got off the ground, and walked over to him with a sway in her hips. Her one-piece white leotard did a good job hugging her body in all the right places. Well, the tracking chip is something I could do without. As for my temper, I am feeling quite calm right now. Even more so after getting a real good look at you, said Galatea with Naruto smirking, since she was trying to put her charms on him. If you want, I can remove the tracking chip from your neck without worry. Though I do feel hesitant to let you roam free back in the world, given your mental connection to Supergirl. You made it abundantly clear you can't stand the idea of her being alive, and are having issues with the connection. Such issues could become a problem for me in the future, remarked Naruto with Galatea, frowning now at the mention of Supergirl, or his general reluctance to free her from this place. She would just have to convince him to think otherwise. Surely there is something I could do to prove myself to you. Something that would be a pleasurable benefit to us both, questioned Galatea while running one of her hands over his muscled yet lean body. I think we could work out some kind of arrangement. The question is, how far are you willing to go to be free from here, from Cadmus? Naruto questioned back with his eyes showing his lust, and the fact he was interested in her offer. Something Galatea intended to capitalize on. Get me out of here with a yellow sun to bring back my powers and my stamina so I can show you, replied Galatea with her hand moving to his pants and her smile widened when she cupped his crotch. An enticing offer to be sure. Still, how do I know that you won't try to use your super strength or one of your other powers to hurt me once I take you to such a sunny place? Asked Naruto while Galatea continued to move her hand along his crotch with a sexy smile on her face. And ruin this one chance to have sex with a well-hung man who could keep up with me. Do you have any idea how many super-powered men there are in the world, who have the ability to handle me without the risk of being crushed under my power? And that counts the ones who will sell me out to the Justice League, countered Galatea while her grin increased. Most likely a handful of them. And that's not including those who would sell you out to the Justice League after it was over, commented Naruto with Galatea nodding. Which is why I won't do anything harsh to you or this wonderful thing in your pants, answered Galatea, while Naruto smirked. High standards indeed, commented Naruto before grabbed Galatea by her ass, and held the woman close before they left via Kamui. Undisclosed tropical island.
Nice location. Where are we exactly? Questioned Galatea while feeling the sunlight from the planet get absorbed into her skin and her powers returning and decided to walk around the beachhead for a bit. A nice little location where a former Titan used to take up residence here for something the Justice League had to handle and sweep under the rug. I busted her out of here a short while ago, said Naruto while pointing to the house Starfire had lived in before his own arrival here.
Well, it certainly has its perks. Warm weather, trees for shade, the scent lodgings not that far away, and a whole lot of sunlight for someone like me needs to recharge my powers, said Galatea while giving Naruto a smirk. Is it everything you asked for? Asked Naruto with Galatea's smirk increasing into a grin. That, and so much more, stated Galatea before she charged Naruto, who blocked her punch aimed for his face by grabbing said fist and throwing her away from him. I didn't know you were into kinky foreplay and sex, commented Naruto with Galatea growling at him, though it was clear this was getting her excited in fighting such a strong opponent. I could say the same for you. You are strong. Very strong. I like that in a man. Hell, I just might strip you naked and have my way with you before burning your hot, delicious body with my heat vision, remarked Galatea with Naruto, looking unconcerned by the threat. Unlikely, said Naruto before he made a hand sign when Galatea charged him again and saw her fall down at the sudden invisible jolt that hit her body before hitting the sandy beach beneath her. What'd you do? Demanded Galatea while she glared at him. Oh, I just put a nice piece of fuinjutsu quite literally on your hot ass before we arrived here, since there was always a significant chance you would try to attack me shortly after we got here. So that little number on your butt basically neutralizes your powers if they are aimed at me with hostile intentions. I can give them back to you just as easily, and I will in a few seconds. So the way I see it, you can either play nice with me from here on out, or you can enjoy being stuck walking around like a normal person, not unlike the rest of the majority of people on this planet, said Naruto with Galatea scowling at him. So, that's how it is, huh? Let me guess. I give you sex, you give me my powers back, and I keep giving you sex to keep my powers, surmised Galatea while she saw Naruto raise an eyebrow at her. I have no problem with giving you back your powers and abilities, Galatea, even without the sex. What I do have a problem with is your desire to hurt others without any form of empathy, said Naruto with Galatea frowning in confusion. So all have to do is show restraint and I get to keep my powers, guessed Galatea with Naruto nodding. Pretty much, but you will have to be under my supervision until I can deem you ready to walk, or at times fly around the populace of the world. Not to mention I need to help you with that mental link to Supergirl and the tracker chip in your neck, said Naruto before he deactivated the seal and saw her get up from the sandy ground. So that is how it's going to be, huh? Asked Galatea with Naruto nodding. Would you prefer I let you go, cause all sorts of chaos, only for you to be hunted down by both Cadmus and the Justice League, locked away in some top-secret prison, Batman designed specifically to keep you powerless and weak for who knows how long you are locked up? Questioned Naruto with Galatea huffed a bit, but knew he was right. Fine, you proved your point. Well, since I'm here on this island, I might as well enjoy myself, said Galatea before she removed her boots and leotard in front of Naruto to his slight surprise, since he wasn't expecting her to strip naked in front of him. You have no concept of modesty, do you? Asked Naruto while not looking away and just enjoying the view. He was a super pervert after all. Besides, any woman who strips naked in front of him without even protesting his presence could not complain if his eyes take in such physical beauty. Show me what modesty looks like and I'll let you know. Besides, my clothes are covered in sand thanks to you. I can't exactly enjoy myself here like this while wearing them now, can I? Challenged Galatea while walking over to the water and letting the waves crash into her feet. To be fair, you tried to throw a punch at me first. Not to mention the second time was also unnecessary, and thus required you be stopped before you really hurt yourself. You already know I am far beyond anyone else you've met before today. I could seriously beat you in a fight regardless of the seal keeping your powers from being used on me. I also brought you here in the off chance. Cadmus tried to track you again, and this was the best place for us to be until I get it out, commented Naruto with Galatea glaring at him before letting out a huff and walked deeper into the water. I suppose attacking you outright was a bit on the stupid side. Next time I will try out a more covert method. Perhaps when we are having sex, thought Galatea with a smirk on her face, and walked into the water until it was up to her neck. All the while thinking up all the ways she could seduce this man before killing him in the process of copulation that wouldn't result in her powers being taken away. And who knows, maybe the sex itself she had with him before killing the man would be good. Well, I guess I should join her. She doesn't have any modesty, and quite frankly, neither do I. Plus, I doubt she will mind seeing someone like me naked in the first place, said Naruto to himself before he got out of his sweatpants and walked into the water naked. Besides, if they did have sex in the water, it wouldn't be the first time for him. Chapter 6: Mentality. Supergirl was blushing. She had been blushing all day. In fact, she had been blushing all day for the past 2 weeks straight. Why? Because of her dreams. At first, her dreams had been nightmares. Images and scenes playing out like a movie. Scenes playing out of her killing people. People she didn't know, but still killed anyway. She knew it was her because they all died via her heat vision on the much higher setting, normally used. And as far as Kara knew, there was no other female Kryptonian around with such a power at their command. Aside from Power Girl. But Power Girl was out on a mission in space with 2 Green Lanterns right now, and was not scheduled back for a few more weeks at most, so it wasn't her. Eventually, the nightmares changed on their own. Only instead of nightmares where she killed people with her heat vision, she found herself doing certain things with a man in her dreams. Mature things. Erotic things. Things she dared not tell Clark or Ma and Pa about it if they were to inquire to the blush. Her face now sported. Kara didn't understand why she was having these dreams about that man or why they felt so real. What Kara did know was when these dreams finally ended, they ended with her waking up drenched in sweat, finding her hand had been touching herself in places, and her bed sheets were soaked with more than just sweat. Fortunately, her apartment in Metropolis was secretly customized with soundproofing to keep anyone from hearing the screams. It also kept certain people with super hearing from knowing what was happening at night when she slept and woke up. But why? Why was she having these dreams about some strange man with his strange eyes and his large male appendage between his legs? What is happening to me? Why do I constantly feel so? What's the appropriate word for this? Aroused. Why do I feel like that with him? Who is he? Why do I constantly have these dreams of him and doing that of all things in those dreams? Oh wow. If Barbara, Clark, or even Ma and Pa ever found out about these things, I would just die from sheer embarrassment. Thought Kara, knowing if any or all of them found out, Barbara would tease her mercilessly. Pa would most likely be uncomfortable, Ma would the most understanding, and Clark would have her become a nun almost as fast as you can say speeding bullet. It also didn't help that in some of these dreams, Kara found herself bound in what could only be considered bondage with magical-looking chains coming out of the man's body. In addition to that, Kara had briefly seen another woman there, naked, using magic to form her own restraints before forcing the dream version of Supergirl to do things with her mouth on the magic using woman's privates. All the while being spanked from behind on the butt by the blonde-haired man with mismatched eyes. Again, Kara promised herself not to reveal such dreams to anyone. She had planned to talk to someone in the Justice League about the violent ones prior to this, but Kara feared it would lead to the more erotic ones that followed. So here she was, flying around Metropolis on her patrol to cool herself down, trying to keep the redness in her face from showing, and hoped to stop making people wonder if they could actually catch a glimpse of her face. Why Supergirl was blushing. Meanwhile, at a certain Metropolis penthouse. Oh, fuck. Yes, take me, you fucking big-dicked stud. Fuck, yelled Galatea while Naruto took her from behind on the bed with hard, vicious thrusts into her pussy, while his hands were on her bust for additional leverage. It had been several weeks since her kidnapping rescue from Cadmus by Naruto. In the 2 days following her new-found freedom, Galatea had spent that time seducing the man so she could kill eventually him, without losing her powers from the stupid seal he placed on her body. If Galatea was honest with herself, she was slightly surprised with how long it took to make the attempt given how Naruto had little to no modesty himself. She had seen him naked in the water and had to hold back the idea of just swimming up to Naruto before they went at it right there in the water. No matter how tempting. She only held back those 2 secretly painful days because of her plan to kill him during or after sex had to be properly planned out. Only for her well-thought-out plan to backfire on account of Naruto giving Galatea the best sex she would possibly ever have in her life. The Kryptonian woman went from wanting to kill Naruto in the future to wanting more sex with Naruto in the future. Hell, following the first time being with Naruto, she didn't really care about hurting others, or even killing others who were around her anymore. She just wanted to have hot, passionate sex with the man currently pounding her from behind right now. When Naruto finally brought her to Metropolis in his penthouse home, Galatea was introduced to Starfire, who she knew by reputation as a Titan, and was rumored to have left for unknown secretive reasons. Naruto made it no secret to her about him having multiple lovers, all of them strong, skilled, and smart in their own way. Galatea figured as much and accepted it while thinking another woman would help make sex with Naruto. Interesting. It was when Tala entered the room did things become tense. The two women had met on a few occasions per Amanda Waller's orders, mainly to see if Tala's magic could hold her down, or if Galatea was strong enough to break the mystical bonds the woman could make. It was only when Naruto produced his recording of the time he interrupted the meeting with Cadmus, and their talk about her prior to his dramatic entrance, did Galatea truly realize what her place in the organization was in terms of value. It had been unsettling to learn. Tala was also one of Naruto's lovers, but the man had told Galatea of Tala's help in bringing Cadmus down a couple dozen pegs. It wasn't hard to see him asking both women to be civil, friendly even. So with reluctance, Galatea felt it was in her best interest to be friendly, if only for now, and just go with it. Only she didn't expect them to have several nights of threesomes involving hot, passionate bondage sex, and being tied up by Naruto's chains, or at times with Tala's magic. Damn, Galatea, your pussy is so tight. Even after all the times I have been pounding you, stupid. It still feels like I'm claiming you for the first time, said Naruto while kissing the woman's neck and leaving a temporary hickey, knowing her body would remove it soon enough. Fuck, don't stop, don't stop. I'm about to cue aha, screamed Galatea before she came hard for what was the fourth time that day. Naruto himself came hard too right into Galatea, and rolled his eyes in the back of his head at the feeling of her milking him for all he was worth. It seemed no matter how many times Naruto banged this woman, Starfire, or Tala for that matter, he couldn't get enough of them. Each of them brought something new to his life and knew it was vice versa with him bringing something new to them. Damn, you are one awesome woman, said Naruto while panting and kissing Galatea's shoulder lovingly, while the woman in question moaned. Damn straight, and don't you forget it, replied Galatea while glancing back at him. Like I could ever forget this pussy ass and world-class tits, remarked Naruto with a chuckle, and saw Galatea smirking again. Legendary. Is the mental link with Supergirl still holding? Asked Galatea offhandedly. Yeah. The Fuinjutsu I used, plus Tala's own magical talents, helped focus the psychic link with her to be active, and at its strongest when we're going at it like rabbits. Why do you ask? Answered Naruto with Galatea's smirk, becoming more seductive, mischievous, and almost evil-looking. Almost evil. That's good. As to why I requested it, I thought such an act would be a more interesting way to torture my goody-goody counterpart. Show her the other side of the mirror, what it is like to be with a man like you. All things we have done will be in her dreams, in her mind, and throw Supergirl off her game. When the time comes for you to claim her, she won't be able to resist. Her Kryptonian butt will belong to you just as mine does, said Galatea, before she gasped, when he smacked her ass playfully. Damn straight it does. Though I am surprised the mental link you have with Supergirl didn't connect with Power Girl too, said Naruto with Galatea, thinking it over in her still slightly cloudy mind. If I were to guess, it might be due to Power Girl being rumored to be from an alternate Earth, so her mind is probably on a slightly different wavelength, commented Galatea while trying to sit up more and moaned, when the support to do so came with the help of Naruto, with his hand on her breast. And him giving it a nice loving squeeze? Up for another round. Or do you think we've traumatized Supergirl enough for the day, and should be merciful? Asked Naruto with a grin while Galatea smirked for a second before she turned herself over onto her back. Oh please, be merciful, great and mighty Jubai. Please spare my goody-goody cousin of any further erotic dreams and images of us being together. Spare her the incredible sight of you taking me like the stud you are and the bitch I am. Spare her the erotic dreams of you pounding my poor pussy to the point where I am numb for hours, said Galatea in a dramatic tone with the back of her hand on her forehead. That was almost believable. If not for the fact Galatea spread her legs wide, pressed her chest up toward him, and had this very seductive smile on her face. Sorry to disappoint you, Galatea, but I'm not feeling merciful. I am feeling more along the lines of horny, said Naruto before he thrust into her again, and loved how she just smiled and laughed. Knowing all of this was going to send to straight to Supergirl, revenge was indeed sweet. Gotham City Asian District. Like many cities, Gotham City was divided up into many different cultural and ethnic territories that either coexisted or clashed, depending on the people living in Gotham. There was the Little Italy sector run by the mafia and the mob families who controlled the territory with a respectable, yet strong iron fist. The Irish had their gangs along their own territory within the city. The Russians had their own mafia, though they occasionally clashed with the Italians from time to time regarding the claiming of territory. And finally, there was the Asian district of Gotham City, which was divided up evenly, or close to it, by the Japanese Yakuza clans. And the Chinese triads? Right now, the Dark Knight of Gotham City, known as the Batman, was moving through the slowly growing, if not thriving, Asian district with a purpose. He had gotten word from one of his contacts here of a strange masked ninja currently alone in an old yet still quite popular Chinese tea shop, and drinking said tea alone. The reason for him drinking alone may have had something to do with the masked ninja throwing out 3 triad members after breaking several limbs, plus a few ribs. Adding to the fact the triad already tried to take back the shop, which ended in disaster with more of their group being brutally beaten and shipped to the hospital, was another factor too. So the place was given a wide enough space so someone else could deal with the masked ninja. Namely, Batman. But what puzzled the Dark Knight the most was the reason for the masked ninja's sudden reappearance back in Gotham. For one, why do it in public? Why drink tea in a public place in Gotham, knowing full well he was being hunted by the police, friends of the inmates of Arkham, and Batman himself? And finally, the icing on the proverbial cake was the fact this masked man had also revealed he was actually waiting for Batman to find him here before beating those triad members senseless. When Batman did enter the tea shop via the front door, he quickly shut and locked it, though he suspected this ninja knew of a dozen other exit points. He certainly did so. It stands to reason his adversary did too. Still, the last thing the Dark Knight wanted was for his enemy to sneak out through the front door. Turning around, Batman saw his intended target sitting cross-legged on a table drinking tea, almost like a monk being in a position that looked like serenity, which in his mind was a big contradiction to the ninja way. Ninjas were the shadows that walked through the darkness, killing without mercy, without feeling, and without regret to their actions. But this man here, he was content, calm. Not deathly calm, but serene calm. Also, the mask itself was wrong. Reports stated the masked ninja wore a fox mask. This one was wearing what resembled the weasel. Plus, this ninja was wearing a straw hat with some dangling bells and a black cloak of sorts with red clouds on it. This was not the masked ninja who attacked Arkham Asylum. A partner. Subordinate of some kind? Student. Were they from the same ninja clan? Your brain will explode from the amount of effort it is taking to deduce who or what I am, Dark Knight, commented the ninja while sipping his tea through his mask. Another act which actually baffled Batman. How was he doing that? You are not the ninja I seek, said Batman with the ninja nodding. No, I am not my master. But I know you are seeking him, said the ninja with Batman frowning further, knowing intimidation of this man was not going to be easy. Ninjas walk through the dark places of humanity. They ate, drank, breathed, lived, and ultimately thrived in it. No doubt this ninja was not going to merely comply in answering his questions, and if he did, there was chance they were not entirely truthful. Ninjas never spoke the truth. Not the full truth. They kept themselves surrounded in the shadows, kept the truth bathed in it through lies and manipulation on their end. Is that so? Then you know I have to bring him in for what he did at Arkham, replied Batman, while walking toward the ninja. Yes, excuse me for my manners, I haven't introduced myself to you. You may call me Itachi, said the now named Itachi, while Batman further. It fits you given your mask, commented Batman while Itachi nodded and got off the table he was sitting on.
My master felt this would be an appropriate setting for the two of us to meet. He would come himself, but in all honesty, my master finds you unworthy of meeting in person, said Itachi with Batman frowning further in confusion.
And he sends you in his place. What does that say about you? Questioned Batman in the hopes of making this ninja's loyalty to his master be shaken. I am his subordinate. One does not question the wisdom of the master, and who he sends to meet others. You of all people should know this given your own past affiliations, said Itachi, while Batman didn't respond to the jab at his own connections when training to become the Dark Knight. So what now? Why meet me here? Asked Batman with Aichi tilting his head slightly to the right. So many questions and little to no answers. It must bother you inside to know so little about him after what you consider to be such a long time in terms of investigating. How many contacts have you entrusted to find him, but turned up nothing? Favors called in, but no results? You won't dare involve the Justice League because Gotham City is as you always put it. Your city and cannot stand the thought of another hero entering here to do what you are unable to do, said Itachi with Batman's scowl increasing slightly at the jab to his pride. Who is your master? Why did he kill those inmates in Arkham? Who does he work for? Who hired him? Demanded Batman with Itachi, letting out a small chuckle. You are not worthy enough to know his name, or why he did what he did. What I will tell you is this: no one hired him. My master killed those people in Arkham because they deserved it. Nothing more, replied Itachi with Batman getting angrier from the response. He has no right to play God with someone's life, much less so many in one place like he did in Arkham, countered Batman with Itachi, letting out another amused chuckle behind his mask. Are you sure? Ninjas do it all the time. We decide who lives and dies by our weapons of choice. Do we stay our hand at the last moment? Or do we bring the sword down on the heads of our enemies and targets? Do we poison them and let them die? Or do we show mercy and give them the antidote that will save them from dying a painful end? Ninjas are shadows. We were made by the light to walk in the darkness without repercussions for our own dark deeds. You choose to judge us, but what about those who have hurt the innocent lives in Gotham City? The world. Who judges them? The courts. The various governments with so many different laws they possess, some of them contradicting others in place, and making it difficult to know who to punish. Questioned Itachi while Batman narrowed his eyes. So he couldn't stand the red tape surrounding these criminals and killed them himself, concluded Batman while Itachi just shook his head at such a naive answer. Is that what you think? So foolish. My master did this world a good deed in service to Gotham by eliminating such filth from the city. You may not agree with what my master has done or his methods, but we are sure the public would disagree. Especially if they had a choice themselves between letting someone like the Joker live and giving him the gas chamber. What do you think the public would do if they were given full disclosure of just how many innocent lives the clown took? And all because someone like you didn't kill him when the opportunity presented itself. Questioned Itachi with Batman finally having enough of his decisions being questioned, and shifted slightly in his stance. I think you and your master need to be brought down. The time for talk is over. You are coming with me, stated Batman with Itachi sighing and taking a sip of his tea still in his hand once more before putting it on a nearby table. I had hoped to avoid fighting you. Not because I cannot win, but I personally hate the idea of fighting, and even killing someone unless absolutely necessary. Still, you have made your intentions clear on this, so if we must do this, I feel the need to apologize in advance, replied Itachi, while Batman went tense and ready for a fight. For what? Asked Batman while keeping his guard up. This, replied Itachi before he vanished into a sea of crows and flew everywhere around the Dark Knight. What? Thought Batman, as he tried to fight off the crows surrounding him, and threw down a smoke bomb to make them back off. Not bad. A strong mind and good reflexes. But still not good enough, said Itachi behind Batman, who spun around and engaged the masked ninja in hand-to-hand combat. For his part, Batman was finding himself surprisingly overwhelmed by this ninja. He had trained with some of the best martial arts fighters in the world. He was a master of many forms of hand-to-hand combat and fighting styles, but none of them seemed to be truly effective against this ninja. Even using the tables around them to deflect Itachi's attacks, or use them against the ninja himself, was proving to be pointless, if not an annoyance to Itachi. All the while, the masked ninja remained calm, stoic, never once losing his cool or acting too aggressive. True ninja. He's good, clearly my better in combat. If that is the case, I can't imagine how good the master is if this one is the subordinate, thought Batman while blocking 2 punches and ducking a kick. Your skills are quite impressive, Batman. They are honed and perfected from years of combat. I imagine it was against the criminals and other entities in the world. You wear well a insulated muscle-stimulating body armor suit designed to keep your body in top form. Your utility belt is designed to hold gadgets and weapons meant to disable or knock out your opponent. You do not come at me to kill like someone with your training should be able to do. I can only conclude you don't kill and haven't during your time as Batman, remarked Itachi calmly behind his mask. I am not an executioner or agent of death, countered Batman while blocking a kick sent at him by Itachi. Pity. Perhaps if you were, people like the Joker wouldn't be an issue for Gotham City, said Itachi with a spin kick, which Batman dodged, and threw several batterings at the masked ninja. Only for Itachi to leap into the air and dodge them all. That's impossible. No normal man should be able to or could be able to dodge them with such flexibility in such a confined room. Such perception is beyond normal. Could these ninjas I have been hunting secretly be meta-humans? Thought Batman while seeing Itachi land gracefully on one of the few tables not turned over. Had enough? Asked Itachi, while Batman narrowed his eyes at him. Not even close, said Batman before he leaped onto the table to continue the fight with Itachi. You cannot best me, Batman. Even if you did, I will tell you nothing, and reveal to you nothing. There are methods the Master employs to ensure our silence. Methods that you cannot break. Methods that you cannot get around, remarked Itachi while moving fluidly through the fighting. There is always a way. You and your master will answer for your crimes, said Batman while trying to land a hit on his target. No, we won't. You will not see us coming. We are shadows. We are death. I suggest you put that into consideration should we find your existence to become too big an annoyance to ignore. Think about what it means for your loved ones. Do not test us, Dark Knight, for you are no match for the darkness we bring upon our enemies and those they love. Any further investigations on your part will result in their deaths. Painful deaths? I assume you wish a certain butler of yours to die of old age rather than die at the hands of a sword to his chest, warned Itachi while Batman froze for a second and narrowed his eyes in anger at the threat showing clear through the gritting teeth. He knows they must have dug deep to find out my identity, though how they did it is the question. But would they really carry out the threat if I push further? Thought Batman with Itachi leaping back to another table behind him. You are wondering if I am bluffing. I am not. This was warning to you, Batman. You have considerable influence with the Justice League, now that Superman and Wonder Woman are not on Earth. Use it to keep them in the dark, or we the shadows from which ninjas live in will claim the life of those close to your heart, starting with the man you see as a surrogate father. We do not wish to harm him, but if you persist, he will be the first to fall, said Itachi before he vanished into a flock of crows. It was only after a few minutes of waiting did Batman realize he was alone in the room, and his adversary was long gone. For now I will back off, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot, thought Batman before he left to figure out what to do about this turn of events, and how to protect those close to him. Like one, Alfred Pennyworth. From a distance, Itachi watched Batman leave in another direction. It was clear to him the Dark Knight was brooding and angry over his threat, as expected. Itachi had hit close to home, closer to the heart than almost anyone else in Batman's history of fighting enemies that popped up at this point. All went according to plan, asked Naruto, who appeared behind Itachi. Yes, the fight showed him I was his better. The threat of his identity being known and you threatened to target his butler will make him back off. If only for the moment, said Itachi while looking over at Naruto. That's good. I knew it was a good idea to send you. If only I could bring about the real Itachi and not a shadow clone with my memories of him, to create a temporary phantom of the man, commented Naruto, with the phantom of Uchiha. Itachi now glaring behind his mask. I would hit you if not for the fact you could best me, said Itachi while Naruto just shrugged. Which is why I am the boss and you are the subordinate, commented Naruto with a cheesy smile with Itachi making a noise. Are you going to target his butler like I claimed you would? Asked Itachi with Naruto smirking. Of course not. I only had you say that to get him to back off. So long as he believes the threat is real, nothing else matters. Until Batman can prove I'm bluffing, he won't dare make a move against me. Not openly anyway, replied Naruto with Itachi nodding. Even if he tries to be covert, and he will, it won't be right away. The end result from his attempts won't reveal anything, commented Itachi, knowing Batman will back off for the moment to appear. He wasn't willing to risk those close to his heart. It would only be until they were safe from harm would the Dark Knight continue his hunt for Itachi and Naruto, by extension. Of course. He doesn't know who I am behind the kitsune mask, and you are the phantom of a man long since dead from an era lost for all time, added Naruto smugly with Itachi frowning at him. I would call you a dick, but I have a feeling you wouldn't care, remarked Itachi with Naruto's grin becoming cheeky looking. Of course. Besides, the ladies love it when I am a dick, replied Naruto, with Itachi now making a noise. I think you mean they love your dick, but I digress. This conversation is disturbing me, said Itachi while wishing he could dispel, but knew it was at Naruto's decision he was allowed to go. Yeah, it is a little bit disturbing. The only way to make myself feel better is to find a hot, sexy lady and get into her panties, declared Naruto, in dramatic fashion with his right hand's index finger, now pointing into the air while a spotlight somehow shined down on him. Which was theoretically impossible given they were on top of a roof with no actual lights around them at an angle to do it. Just kill me now, mumbled Itachi while missing Naruto's evil grin. Okay, exclaimed Naruto before kicking Itachi in the ribs hard enough to disperse. It was totally worth the price of receiving the memory of the kick and feeling that bit of pain from it. Gotham City abandoned zoo. Honestly, Harley, you need to calm down, said Pamela Isley while she was currently in the middle of gardening some of her babies, which were her plants, and looked over at her female friend fighting the punching bag set up for the blonde-haired woman. Harley had not taken Joker's death well. She had been able to get away while the clown got caught by Batman in their last scheme to take the Dark Knight down. Harley had been laying low since and was planning to free her Puddin from Arkham when the time presented itself. But the ninja assassin came, killing the inmates, including the Joker, and even some of the more corrupt guards. It had actually spread a wave of fear across Gotham's criminal underworld. This was something worse than Batman. This was someone who didn't stop your crime, beat you up, and ship your ass to Arkham to stay until you were well enough to escape, or be let out for good behavior. No. This was someone who would kill you and walk out the front door unopposed, because he would end your life if you were standing in his way. Which would probably explain why crime in Gotham City had taken such a sudden dive, following what was named the Arkham Massacre by the media. I won't rest. I can't rest. Not until I avenge Mr. J. Not until the man who killed him is on the ground, broken, bleeding, and begging for mercy, declared Harley, while beating up the poor punching bag with a crude painting of the kitsune mask she had heard the killer had worn. Wow! I knew I was popular, but this is actually quite cool, said Naruto in his ninja gear with mask, and saw Pamela was shocked. She was found while a little frightened. Harley went from shocked to pissed off in a time span of 3.5 seconds. You! Screamed Harley, who rushed forward despite Pamela's protest, and jump-kicked Naruto right in the face. Or would have jump-kicked Naruto right in the face if he didn't tilt his head at the last moment, and the angry woman crashed into one of her friend's plant gardens. Fortunately for Harley, this one wasn't filled with poison, or had a hatred for humans like Pamela had done for most of them, when nurturing them to their full potential. Since Harley and Pam became friends, the latter had to alter the mindset of her babies to not attack, or harm the blonde bombshell of a woman when she was nearby. The fact they quickly caught her and put Harley down gently proved they listened to their mother. "Why are you here?" asked Pamela while calling out to her children to be ready to defend them against this enemy. "Just to talk." "Why? Did you do something recently to warrant the end of your life?" asked Naruto curiously, while walking toward Pamela, and had to admit she looked rather sexy in that one-piece green suit of hers. It showed off a lot of leg. "Not that I can recall. In fact, contrary to what you may have heard, my kill count is still 0, replied Pamela, while her plants moved around her form to protect their mother from harm. "Which is why I haven't paid you a visit sooner and ended your life like I did those in Arkham," said Naruto, while hearing Harley's angry war cry with the woman leaping into the air with a giant mallet in hand trying to hit his head with it. Only for her to miss and go flying into something else with a loud crash, being the end result. "You aren't going to take us seriously, are you?" asked Pamela while Naruto glanced from her to Harley, trying to get up off the ground. Should I? If I really wanted to take this seriously, both of you would be dead before I even made my presence known. Not even your babies, as I have heard from sources that say you call them this in the past, can save you from my wrath should I choose to unleash it, said Naruto calmly, while seeing Harley glaring at him. You killed Mr. J, Harley exclaimed angrily, while Naruto tilted his head at her. Mr. J? Asked Naruto before glancing at Pamela for clarification. She means the Joker. You know, the guy who grins a lot, looks like a deranged clown, and laughs at the stupidest things, answered Pamela while Harley kept on glaring at the masked ninja. Oh yeah, sorry if it didn't ring a bell in my head. The man wasn't doing much laughing when I put my sword through his heart and channeled a good amount of lightning into it until his pasty white body turned to ashes. He did scream a lot, said Naruto casually, and it made Pamela wince while Harley screamed in rage. Die! Yelled Harley, while trying to smash him in the face with her giant mallet. No thanks, said Naruto while blocking the assault with just his hand and pushed Harley back, like it was nothing. Super strength. A meta-human like the rumors said, thought Pamela while Harley got up again and readied her trusty mallet for a fight. Now, before you decide to go all wrath of nature on me, is it possible we could all just calm down and sit in some chairs to talk this over like normal people? Or is this a regular thing where you interact with others for the first time, followed up with repeat routines of fighting with our given skills, and one of us coming out of it alive, if barely alive to start it all over again? Questioned Naruto with Pamela frowning slightly. In case you haven't noticed, we are not normal people, said Pamela, while knowing hers was physical, and Harley's was, well, mental. Clearly mental. I can see that. But when was the last time you had an actual normal conversation with someone without resorting to a standoff like this one? Asked Naruto with Pamela being silent since she honestly couldn't answer it. Why would we want to have a conversation with you in the first place, after what you did? Demanded Harley with Naruto shrugging. Because we don't have to be hate-filled sworn enemies. I certainly don't want to be your enemy, Pamela. You and I actually share a common interest surrounding nature, replied Naruto before walking over to some of the plants, and gently touched them. To Pamela's shock, the plants actually welcomed it. They practically screamed happiness and joy from his touch from what she felt at the moment. How was this possible? Was this some kind of trick? Did he do something to himself to fool her plants? Or was he more like her than she realized? How are you doing that to my babies? Asked Pamela while her plants seemed to swoon under his gentle touch. As I said, we share a common interest in nature. My family is connected to nature in a sense and has a history of being able to communicate with it, answered Naruto before he turned to look at Pamela and Harley. That won't save you from me bashing your face in, exclaimed Harley while Naruto just sighed. Man love? Asked Naruto to Pamela. Crazy is the more correct term, answered Pamela while being in a less hostile stand, yet still guarded all the same. He really did a number on your mind, bringing out something that never should have been allowed out in the first. And now that it is out, the door can't be shut. Not fully, said Naruto since he knew a thing or two about madness. The falls of truth and facing his darker side was chief among them. You shut up! I'm going to get you back for what you did to Mr. J, exclaimed Harley while Naruto sighed. Would you mind if I did something to stop this maddening stupidity from escalating further? Asked Naruto to Pamela, who looked from him to Harley, and back to him once again. As long as you don't kill her and whatever you doesn't make things worse, answered Pamela while Naruto nodding. Red, exclaimed Harley in shock. What? Your mind is fixated on the clown. All he did was manipulate and control you. Sometimes he hit you, which results in you leaving him for a time and staying with me before crawling back to him like an abused housewife. It's sickening, said Pamela since she had seen Harley enter her hideouts. How she found them, Pamela had no idea. Beaten up, bruised, a weak smile on her face, and asking for a place to stay? Only to be gone in a week or two to find the Joker, if he wasn't already in Arkham, and be his loyal sidekick bitch of a punching bag before the cycle repeated itself. All the more reason for me to fix her mental problems before they go beyond the point of being healed by my powers, replied Naruto before he tilted his kitsune mask to the side to reveal his Sharingan. What did you just say? Asked Harley with her anger vanishing and fell into the power of the red spinning eye Naruto showed her. Within seconds, she collapsed into his arms, and he carried the woman to a nearby couch, with Pamela watching him carefully. What exactly did you do? Asked Pamela curiously, yet just as cautious since she didn't expect him to possess such a strange eye that could clearly attack someone's mind. I had to put her to sleep. While she is asleep, her mind will go about reflecting on what has happened since becoming the Joker's loyal pawn. I've enforced it to show Harley the more negative aspects of her time with Joker. The lives he hurt or ruined, the people he's killed while laughing at their suffering, and of course his own abuse of her after one of his many attempts to kill Batman fails miserably. In short, I'm using her own memories to heal her, and show how the Joker wasn't the loving man she portrays him out to be when thinking about him. It will hurt at first, mentally anyway, having to face the painful truth that the life you lived was horrible in a way that you deny at first, but can't escape when it finally sinks its teeth into your soul. If all goes well, Harley will be cured of her fixation regarding the Joker, replied Naruto, calmly knowing it could just as easily backfire, and the madness would make her go way off the deep end, with the only option following such an event being a sword to the chest. His sword. Her chest. Will Harley still be Harley? Regardless of the Joker's influence being removed, asked Pamela, since Harley had always been a happy ball of sunshine in the past, and was a good friend to her despite the woman's own way of doing things. In fact, Harley was surprisingly well-liked, if not loved, by the other Arkham inmates, and it actually saddened Pamela to see the blonde woman not be her usual perky self. Don't worry your sexy body there, Pamela. Harley will still be her usual happy self, just without the Joker's mentality and influence messing up her mind. She's only embraced what she perceives as a positive side of him, which I know is strange to hear about the Joker having a positive side, but that's how Harley sees it. In order for her to face the cold, painful truth of reality, I had to make her face the negative side and use it to fix her mind so it would stop believing Joker was someone worth fighting for, replied Naruto before he gave Harley a kiss on the forehead and focused back on Pamela. You are not what I expected. I heard rumors about you. What you did in Arkham. The way people have been speaking about you being a ruthless monster worse. Then Batman has made almost all the criminal element in Gotham freeze in its tracks. Both Batman and the police are hunting you, remarked Pamela with Naruto letting out a chuckle, and just removed his mask since he felt there was no point in hiding it from her. The police. Yes. Batman. No. Not right now anyway. I had an agent of mine persuade him that it was in his best interest to back off, said Naruto, while Pamela was surprised he took off his mask, and that he apparently got Batman of all people to not hunt him down for killing. And how exactly did you get the Batman of all people to not hunt you down? The man is as obsessed with knowing things as I am with wanting to protect nature, commented Pamela with a hint of curiosity, and thinking she could use it herself against the Dark Knight. Let's just say I know of someone extremely close to his heart. I might have also had my subordinate tell him that if he didn't back off, I would put my sword through said person's heart. While he watched, said Naruto with Pamela looking surprised, impressed, and a bit worried since it was clear this man could make any threat made a reality. Care to share the name of this person, in case I have to use it? Asked Pamela with a small yet seductive smile on her face. Sorry, no can do. Besides, it's my little trump card only I should be allowed to hold for now. Besides, I doubt you would need such a thing in the near future, replied Naruto, as he walked over to her calmly, and saw Pamela was still watching him carefully. And why is that? Asked Pamela with Naruto smiling. Because I intend to take you and Harley away from this, replied Naruto with Pamela looking at him in shock. Excuse me? Asked Pamela while she became a little bit more concerned by his choice of words, while Naruto raised a hand to calm her down. Hold on, I will explain. As you have no doubt noticed with your own beautiful eyes, the world is in big fat fucking funk right now. We have wars, pollution, and overall chaos just waiting to erupt upon reaching its zenith, that is total annihilation of life on this world. Now, despite what the Justice League has done along with its many and various heroes out there protecting innocent lives, nothing has truly changed. Only the game. For every hero there is a villain trying to combat, said Hero, and take him or her down to prove the path they follow is right. When heroes form groups to fight evil, the evil in turn forms their own to battle the group of heroes, and things continue to escalate. Shortly after the Justice League was formed, the Injustice Gang was created. The various Titan groups have to deal with the Hive and other team-based villain groups. When the Justice League grew in size, Cadmus was formed by questionable people, and their desire to start a war with them to take it down under the pretense that they were in the right for doing it. As with each new group forming, or one already formed slowly growing for the heroes of this world, the villains are doing the same. I intend to remove certain factors on both sides so the escalation doesn't continue to the point where the world as a whole doesn't suffer from a possible proverbial implosion from both sides fighting it out for some invisible form of supremacy, said Naruto with Pamela frowning at him. And by removing certain factors, you mean killing all the psychopathic criminals like the Joker, like Scarecrow, even those not in Arkham like Bane or someone else who has no problem killing for fun. What about Harley and myself? We aren't exactly what you would call model citizens, countered Pamela with Naruto grinning further. True, but neither of you killed others. Those I did kill, they enjoyed it immensely. The world is better off without them. Besides, I didn't kill all the inmates in Arkham. I set Victor Fries free, cured him of his condition, his wife's condition, and now the two of them live happily ever after on a nice beach house in Florida, where cold weather is a rarity. All expenses paid by yours truly. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he already got her pregnant at this point. Naruto shot back with Pamela looking slightly surprised by this. So you don't just take life on a whim? There's a method to your unique madness, said Pamela with Naruto nodding. Exactly. And it's not just criminals I'm removing from play either. Too many heroes can be a problem too. So I'm making sure the heroes in the world are reduced in number 2. Namely, Superman and Wonder Woman, replied Naruto with Pamela looking at him like he was insane. You can't kill those two. Even if you did, it will cause people like me untold problems, said Pamela with Naruto, now looking at her like she was crazy. Who said anything about killing them? I merely set up a situation where both heroes are retired on another world where they will know happiness like no other, said Naruto, with Pamela calming down since many villains tried to kill those heroes, but she clearly knew such an act would have a very bad aftermath. The world itself would move to capture, arrest, and ultimately kill these villains for what they did to people while using those two main heroes of the Justice League as martyrs. She would be hunted like never before, and ultimately would find herself in a hole so deep in a prison, there was no way to get out, and make her life extremely miserable. And what about the rest of the Justice League? You can't make them all retire. As much as I like to cause a little chaos, I do prefer some form of order from society. Especially if said order helps protect the planet from the pollution and toxic waste humans dump into Earth, along with a defense against future alien invasions, remarked Pamela with Naruto shrugging. I'm not going to dismantle the organization to the point of it just being an empty husk, my dear. More like I'm going to lessen the number of teeth it has in order to make them less threatening to the public so people don't have a growing fear of being oppressed, and thus try something stupid. Trust me, when people as a whole fear something, they tend to do something extremely stupid, and blow things way out of proportion. It is not pretty in the slightest, said Naruto with Pamela nodding in agreement. So what happens now? Asked Pamela while Naruto smirked in a charming sort of way. Well, I would like you along with Harley over there to join my side in this matter. And in return, I can keep the cops, Batman, and ultimately the Justice League among other shadowy factions, like Cadmus off your back, answered Naruto with Pamela looking shocked by this. Cadmus? Asked Pamela in surprise. Yeah, Yang. They have been seeking to recruit you for their special project, surrounding your talents with plants and possibly for one of their future suicide squads. I have your file I stole from them, and they were more interested in capturing, studying, and dissecting you for the purpose of duplicating it, said Naruto before he pulled out a folder, and showed it to Pamela, who saw the Cadmus seal on it, and read the contents involving her life up until almost quite literally now. The damn thing had locked in all her movements, up until a few weeks ago. I can't believe this, said Pamela in shock while reading the file. Well, you better believe it. I spent a good deal of time screwing them over and putting them in a figurative coma on life support. Though we both know they won't allow it to stay that way without a fight. And you haven't given me answer to my offer, said Naruto with Pamela looking from the folder to him. What's in it for me, aside from your protection? Questioned Pamela, since she wanted more than just the usual deals where her end is the shorter part of the stick. Like I said, I can keep others off your back. Not to mention Harley will be a part of it, so the company around you won't be boring in the slightest. In addition to further sweeten the deal, I can use my powers to remove that unfortunate side effect of being unable to have children. You will still have all your other talents, but that negative aspect of your life will be taken out of it, said Naruto with Pamela looking shocked and yet hopeful all the same. You can do that? Asked Pamela while Naruto nodded. I cured Victor Fries of his walking icy condition and saved his wife from her own little disease she had before being put in a cryo tube by her husband. I can certainly help you, answered Naruto, and he meant it. It would take some time, a bit of research into all things biology, and maybe a bit of her own genetic material along with what she knew about it. But there was a way. Yuinjutsu had yet to fail him, and he did not believe it would fail him now. There is one more thing I want, said Pamela while waiting for him to get angry at the fact she wanted more out of this deal. And what is that? Asked Naruto curiously. I want your help in protecting the planet from being destroyed by humanity. Namely, the protection of the rainforests and plant life this world still has left, said Pamela, while she saw Naruto nod in agreement. Agreed. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm also attuned to nature, and I do hear her suffering caused from the polluted air and water. But if I do help you, it has to be done my way. Don't get me wrong, Pamela. I applaud your active means of fighting on nature's behalf, but the way you are doing it is not helping your cause at all, replied Naruto, knowing the woman's history in wanting to get things done, and her way trying to go about it were not going to work. It's all I know. Besides, what do you suggest I do? Questioned Pamela, since she wanted to hear his opinion on the matter. For one, I suggest you not make yourself out to be a psycho when it comes to protecting nature. The companies responsible for dumping toxic waste, polluting the air, and the water this planet possesses are thriving on your actions. All they have to do is make a big enough smoke screen surrounding your attacks and painting themselves as the ever-tragic companies being hurt by a crazed lunatic with a radical hippie complex. Your reasons, no matter how noble, are swept under the rug by the media they provide funding to, and keep the general masses in the dark. The best way to fix the planet is to show the world what these companies are doing, what they are trying to hide. Use the media to tell your story and show the world what these companies have been doing for years. How this could hurt the next generation and the generation after that. Make them question if they want their own offspring to live in a world where the air is increasingly foul. It hurts to breathe where it was once clean enough to take deep breaths without consequence. Where the water you drink has to go through countless filtration systems, where it was once clean enough to have straight from the tap of the faucet. Show them the painful truth without the crazy-looking plants you make in the background, which are grabbing all the attention. And I guarantee your voice will be heard on the matter when it counts, said Naruto, since he knew all about perceptions and how to get people to see things from his or someone else's perspective when necessary. That takes time. And these companies have an army of lawyers, media outlets, and all other resources at their disposal. I don't have that kind of juice to counter anything I release to the press. I will still be seen as an environmental nutcase or terrorist, exclaimed Pamela in frustration. What he was saying was the correct approach. And I can't give you what you need. Make no mistake. Pamela, what I am asking you to do in handling this is different. And yes, it will take time. But the satisfaction that comes from seeing these companies fall, their resources taken away, and those responsible for the planet's suffering being taken down, will all be worth it. I promise you that much, if you put your faith in me. If you join my little harem, replied Naruto with his hand now outstretched, and she hesitantly took it. Fine. I'll join your little... What did you just say? Your harem, questioned Pamela with Naruto, sporting a cheesy grin. Did I mention I'm in a relationship with 3 other women? One is an alien. One is the clone of an alien made by Cadmus to combat the original, but is still smoking hot, and the third is a hot magic using sorceress who was formerly employed by Cadmus. It is because of her that I was able to get your file. Tala was on the Cadmus High Council Committee with a few other unsettling people, like Lex Luthor. Stated Naruto, knowing Lex's name being dropped would make his words all the more believable. How does that even work? How can you have a harem? Asked Pamela, as she looked at him in shock while not being sure if she should be impressed by his ability to handle 3 very powerful women, or disgusted by him over it. Considering I'm beyond human in every sense of the word, easily. Besides, it's not like I don't contribute to their happiness via the sex alone. It also doesn't hurt when you happen to be a primordial god who has the power to obliterate the planet with ease, but doesn't because it would be boring following such an event. Answered Naruto, while Pamela now looked floored by this. Primordial god? Asked Pamela, while wondering if he was just boasting because of his apparent prowess in handling 3 women, or actually was a primordial god.
Legendary.
Yep. I don't look it because I keep myself in great shape and age very slowly to keep my appearance from looking like a tired old man. Joked Naruto, though it was true that he did keep in shape despite his semi-laziness in sleeping every few hundred years when he left the world to its own devices. I find that a little hard to believe considering you have yet to use any real godly powers in front of me, remarked Pamela, with Naruto letting out an amused chuckle. I could, but I don't think you want Batman and over half the Justice League to swarm upon this place. Their sensors would light up and possibly overload if I were to unleash several times what I have so far. Trust me, the full strength of my power, if brought out, can quite literally change the landscape of the world, said Naruto, since he knew that much about his own powers. Can you show me a small sample of your power? Something powerful, but not enough to alert everyone wearing a cape about it? Asked Pamela, since she would believe he had godly powers when she saw something worth calling godly. Naruto sighed, since he figured as much given how things were these days. 1,000 years ago he could make a Raikiri, and people would think he was a sorcerer. 1,000 years before that, if he used Mokutan, a demigod connected to the Titan god Gaia. And a few centuries before that with another power like making a tsunami. Well, that would speak for itself. But now, almost everyone and their grandmother had powers these days, so the ability to say you were a god came with the requirement to prove it. Granted, he could probably prove it through the sex alone, but Naruto got the feeling Pamela would slap him if he even suggested that route before unleashing her babies on him. At the very least, she would probably kiss him in order to shove poison through his body, with enough potency to kill several thousand men within a matter of seconds. Fine, be a skeptic. Now let's see, what can I do to prove my godly power without it alerting the Justice League, or Batman of our location? Asked Naruto to himself while tapping his finger on his chin in thought. Before he snapped his fingers, grabbed Pamela by the shoulder, to her immense surprise, and used Kamui to enter his personal dimension. Before Pamela could ask or wonder where the hell she was, Naruto made a hand motion to shush her before he pointed to the sky above them, and outstretched one of his hands. What is this? What are you doing? Asked Pamela after waiting a minute before she saw something coming down from the dark sky above them. And it wasn't just anything, it was multiple things. It was a group of meteors, the size of basketballs, cars, and large houses. They all crashed in the distance in front of them, and the explosion sent a lot of sand and rock their way. Pamela covered her eyes with her hands, but when nothing hit, the nature-loving woman looked up to see a powerful barrier was blocking everything. And Naruto himself was the source of it. And he didn't even look tired. Still think I'm not a god or god-like entity? Asked Naruto with a hint of amusement in his voice, while Pamela saw the devastation in front of her, and looked back at him. I take back what I said, whispered Pamela while the barrier vanished around them. Good. Because if you still didn't believe in my god-like powers after that, I would just have to resort to seducing and sleeping with you. After all, what better way to prove my god-like greatness than through my sexual stamina? Commented Naruto, with Pamela blushing and glaring at him. As if I would let you get that far. Not to mention the toxic poison running through my body is quite lethal, said Pamela, while she was sure her own toxic lips would end him, god or not.
Legendary.
Shame. I'm probably the only male right now that you could have a sexual relationship without, said man, dying in the process, since the poisons you have inside won't hurt me in the slightest. commented Naruto offhandedly, while Pamela growled at him for that since it was most likely true. Short of Superman or some other male immune to her poisonous kiss, her choice in male partners in that field were extremely limited. I'm not going to sleep with you, even if it did provide some protection against the local authorities, Batman. And the Justice League, remarked Pamela, with Naruto grinning before he brought them back to her hideout. You say that now, Pamela, but the day is still young. Besides, you can only hold out for so long before the idea of having sex with a god gets too strong to ignore. Besides, the sex isn't an incentive for me to protect you. It is more along the lines of an option to get in on some good fringe benefits and possible relationship with a man who cares about you and your happiness, commented Naruto, with his grin not leaving him while walking away from the glaring stare of one Pamela Isley. I don't care how desperate he thinks I am, Pamela Isley has standards, and will not sleep with him. Even if he is a handsome god who can possibly withstand my poisonous kiss and has a connection to nature, thought Pamela while looking away, but cast a glance at the man, now. My Harley sighed, and making sure the blonde woman was okay. Pamela also happened to glance at his butt before she looked away again and bit back a groan she wanted to unleash for even doing that. She was not and would not be tempted by his offer of sex in the slightest. No, never. Sometime later, Harley Quinn woke up feeling good, refreshed, better than she ever felt in a long time. It took her a moment to realize where she was, and how she got here in this position of lying on the couch. At first, Harley was a bit angry over what Naruto did, but the thought lasted for a total of 2.5 seconds, and found herself increasingly happy now that the fact her mind was free from the Joker's influence. Not only that, but the insane clown wouldn't be able to hurt her, Pamela, or anyone else she knew that the Joker would possibly target for his own sick amusement. What did I even see in him? Oh well, better not to dwell on it. He's dead, and I am alive. Happy day, thought Harley before getting off the couch and decided to go find out where Red was so she can tell her the good news. After looking around, Harley was wondering why Pamela wasn't around her usual haunts in the abandoned zoo and attending to her babies. The answer arrived when she heard the sounds of grunts, moans, and other noises in one of the rooms farther from the plants here. Curiosity getting the better of her, Harley silently walked over to the door, crouched down low, and saw it was open slightly so she could take a tiny look inside without being seen. What she saw made Harley's jaw drop, and had this been an enemy, it would have reached the floor. Why? Because she was seeing her dear friend Pamela Isley, also known as Poison Ivy, naked on a bed and being taken from behind by Naruto. At first, Harley thought the man had taken advantage of her friend while she was knocked out, but quickly saw Pamela was clearly into the whole thing, judging by how the red-haired woman was leaning back against him while kissing the blonde entity with a passion while one hand was on her breast and the other was on her ass. Pamela also had one of her own hands reaching back in order to grab his long spiky hair and pull his head down to make it easier for their lips to connect. Harley also noted that based on the sweat the two were producing from their bodies, they had been doing this for quite a while, and the red-haired woman was on her last legs, or knees in this case, being taken by such a man. I'm going to come again. I can feel it, gasped Pamela while she felt his thrusts increase in speed and power, with her body welcoming each pleasurable sensation sent through her body. She didn't know how it happened. One moment, she is attending to some of her babies, keeping the remarks made by Naruto about sexual intimacy out of her mind, along with it being one of the side perks of his protection from various factions currently hunting her down. Then the next, Pamela suddenly feels a strong desire to strip naked, kiss Naruto on the lips regardless of her poisonous abilities there, and having sex in this very room they were currently in now. It was as if some instinct within her body had overridden any form of common sense and taken over so she could have wild, passionate sex with the blonde man sticking it to her from behind. And she did just that. He wasn't even doing anything one would consider to be remotely interesting at the time when approaching the man with his back turned. Naruto was just attending to some of the more gentle plants from what she could vaguely remember, and they seemed to be quite happy under his care. The fact Naruto was able to do that only made her sudden desire for him to increase even further. When he finally did turn around to finally face her, Naruto was able to behold the naked, yet quite stunning, and sensual form of one Pamela Isley in all the red-haired woman's naked glory. Her eyes were glazed over with lust, and it was clear to him that she would not be denied this moment to lay with the one person capable of bringing about such pleasure. Me too. Still not convinced I'm a god? Asked Naruto while pinching her breast he was holding and speeding up his thrusts with more force behind it. I take it back. You are a god. You are a most definitely 100% a big dick stud for a gowood, exclaimed Pamela, as she came hard and felt Naruto's seed fill her seconds later. I knew you would see things my way, whispered Naruto with a grin on his face before slowly removing himself from her, and loving how she whined over it and collapsed face first on the bed completely exhausted. If it's all the same to you, I'm going to go to sleep now, remarked Pamela while she closed her eyes and fallen into a statue of bliss. Sure thing. Meanwhile, I get to see what a certain smoking hot blonde peeper is doing behind the door, whispered Naruto, knowing Pamela was too out of it to say anything, and walked to the door without an ounce of shame. Holy crap, he's huge. Oh no, he's coming this way, thought Harley and tried to flee, but the door opened before she could even turn around to escape, and found herself staring up at the large cum-covered penis of Naruto, along with Naruto himself looking down at her with an amused smile. See something you like? Asked Naruto with Harley, looking speechless and currently at a loss for words, if not the ability to speak proper sentences. Big. Oh, sorry. Wow, said Harley in confusion since she didn't know what to do in this situation. Mainly because she has never been in this situation before today. Do you want to talk? Or are you here for something else? Asked Naruto with Harley, just looking from him to his dick and back again, up at him. Said Harley with Naruto, seeing her face getting red despite the white makeup she wore on her face. Do you wish to sample what Pamela got? Asked Naruto while seeing Harley's blush increase, and knew she was tempted to say, yes. And after what felt like hours to Harley, her mind finally rebooted before she shot up off the ground with an embarrassed look on her face.
Legendary.
I wanted to say thank you for what you did. Yes. I was not right in my head. My mind was well endowed. It was messed up inside. I saw it through your big penis, whatever it is you did to my mind. I saw what the Joker had done to people and realized it wasn't right. So I just wanted to say thank you, replied Harley, while she found her mind was still hazy from seeing him naked, what he was sporting between his legs, and the smell of sex flooding her senses. You're welcome. Sorry I had to do things the way I did them. It was the only way I could fix your mind. I already offered to help Pamela on certain issue of her own and join my little yet slowly growing harem. I have been building as of late, replied Naruto before he went into a short run-through of things regarding his plans while not caring about his own modesty in being naked in front of this still questionably sane woman. Sounds like fun. Can I join? Please, 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 exclaimed Harley excitedly, while Naruto raised an eyebrow at her instant desire to join so quickly. Just like that? You just want to join me? Asked Naruto with Harley nodding. Yup. I want in on the ground floor. It's going to be so much fun. And that includes all of the sex too, stated Harley without any form of shame in her voice. Well, she's got spirit. I'll give her that, thought Naruto before seeing Harley literally rip off her clothing and eyeing him with a hungry, lustful look, saying she wanted him badly. Come on, stud. You may have been able to tame Pamela, but let's see if you can handle someone like me, exclaimed Harley in a sexy pose, wearing only her knee-high boots, right before she literally jumped on him with the two beginning what would be a long day into the night-long sex romp around the place. All in all, it was one hell of a perverted day for Naruto, and he loved every second of it.